This is an LA Times Studios podcast.
So there's two girls working at the yogurt shop, closing shift. They're 17 years old. And one of them has her little sister there with her I think she was taking her home from the mall, and her best friend. The sister's 15, the best friend's 13, and they're closing shop. What I think happened is two guys didn't leave the shop. The next thing we know is the front door is locked and somebody sees smoke coming from the little yogurt shop.
Hello and welcome to LA Crimes. I'm your host, Madison McGhee. Today we have my wonderful friend and host of Housewives of True Crime, Tabitha Kane. Tabitha, thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
I'm so happy you're here. We have kind of a sad story to talk about today.
It is really sad,
It's
actually.
really sad. But before we get into the details, I want to talk to you about you and your show.
Oh.
Now multiple shows.
Yeah.
What are you working on right now?
So Housewives of True Crime is, once a week, and I tell the story from start to finish, which is a story similar to the one that we are covering today. And then the alternate is the newest one, and that is based on stories that are happening now in court. So it's a recap, 30 minutes a day of like the biggest crimes that have happened.
And you're looking at like trials that are going on and like covering sort of in real time.
In real time, right. So we did the Karen Reed trial. We did the Donna Adelson trial. We were going to cover the Brian Kohberger trial, but that one
never happened.
So
crazy.
Next, I don't know what we're covering. It kind of happens, and it does happen in real time. It's like once something pops up that, people seem to be interested in, we'll get in there and we'll dive in.
It's amazing. And it's helpful because I feel like there is a lot of like legalese going on in these trials and courtrooms that like I don't understand. And you're able to like break it down in a way that feels like digestible.
Yes, totally. And it also helps me with Housewives because then I kind of know what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Then I tell the story, right? So, yeah,
it's amazing.
Good. It's great.
So you haven't been on the show before. And what I like to do with my guests for the first time is talk about their gateway case, which is what was the first thing or story that you saw that made you go, I'm really interested in diving into true crime?
Okay, so I do have one. And it's actually pretty bananas. It was in high school, and my brother was on my brother's 5 years younger than me, so he was on a baseball team. And one of the moms got murdered. And she was murdered we didn't know. She just went missing, right? She went missing. She went to Target. She never came home.
Oh, my gosh. And this was in California?
In California, in Ventura, California, I want to say it probably happened in 1996 or 7, but once it got to court, it was in 1998, and I was a senior.
Wow.
And my high school was right across the street from the courthouse. So instead of going to McDonald's after school, I went to the courthouse and watched this trial.
Oh, my gosh.
Is that crazy?
Wow. And you were just like a senior in high school, spending your days like diving into...
You would have thought I would have, become an attorney or something and not gotten into true crime later in my life. But
wow.
Yeah.
And what happened with that case?
So it was the husband and the mistress of the husband. It was actually the mistress of the husband that abducted her. She put on a whole costume, went up to her in the parking lot and got her somehow to get into this woman's car. And then they found that the husband was also involved in this. So they were both found guilty, and I'm sure they're still in prison.
My gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. They found her eventually, too. They found her body.
Oh, my gosh.
But a terrible crime.
Yeah. that to me is like such a classic, like husband did it with a mistress.
Oh, for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
As far as a gateway case into true crime, that's like, that hits a lot of the.
And then crazy enough, I went to Cal Poly the next year for college. And that's where Kristen Smart right? Kristen
In your own backyard, right?
In your own
That's the show,
backyard.
yeah.
Yes. And she had gone missing in 96. I went in 98, 99 was my freshman year. And 2 other girls were abducted that year during the time that I was there. And no relation, but they were also both found murdered.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So those, I think that kind of combination of so much crime happening around my like youthful years pushed me into wanting to like help solve crimes and understand like the behind the scenes.
Yeah, for sure. I would be also so fascinated if it was like almost like following you.
No,
around.
don't say that. Don't say that.
Not anymore, of course.
Not anymore.
But in the beginning, to
I
get
know,
you
weird.
interested. So your podcast, Housewives of True Crime,
Mm-hmm.
how did that start? Where did the name come from? We can also not do this.
It's okay. There's actually a funny story to this.
Okay, great.
So I was at CrimeCon where actually we met.
We met
Madison,
at CrimeCon, yes.
And it was before I think you came out with your podcast. So I want to say it was in 2001. Oh wait, no, 2021. When did your podcast launch?
My first CrimeCon was 2023 in Orlando.
Okay, so it was the one right before that.
Okay.
It was in Louisiana.
Oh yeah.
And I was a different name. My podcast had a different name and it was long and it just was not working. And this woman comes up to us and she became a great friend, but she just was a listener. And she's like, you really need to change your name. I was like, really? Why? She's like, you're more like Housewives of True Crime. I was like, sounds great.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, and like the brand you've built around it is so cute and fun. And
Yeah.
like all your merch, it's like really fun.
I know. I'm doing a live show next week.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I did all these like case packets and I did them really fun colors. But
I mean, you're so good at that. I mean, not to like stereotype you. I mean, you are like the ultimate like housewife. Like you are like so good with like coming up with cute like trinkets
Crafty
and like
things.
you're so crafty. Yeah. It's amazing. Just
Well,
to like
thanks.
you come up with an idea and then the next time I see you, you're like, look at these like mugs or look at this.
Yes,
and I'm like,
that's true.
how did you go from A to B?
I'm just not backstabbing people on the way.
There should be a show for like good housewives.
Mhm.
But I guess it wouldn't be as fun.
Maybe that was supposed to be like the Mormon housewives.
And then they end up being crazier
they're
than
crazier.
everyone else. So funny. What's been your favorite case that you've covered recently
Recently,
or ever?
gosh. Right now I'm doing this case. Her name is Missy Beavers. And it's an old case too, but it's unsolved. And it happened in Texas. She was one of those outdoor fitness people that had people come at like 5 a.m. to do their workouts, which I envy those people, but
Could never be me.
not me. And she was murdered inside a church. This particular day, she had to take her class inside because it was raining. And when she was there before anybody else was there was a guy or a girl, we don't actually know, in full tactical gear, like SWAT gear, and that person murdered her. And so they don't know to this day who that person is, but there's weird things, like this person has a weird gait when they walk. It looked like they were robbing the place, but not really robbing the place because they just kind of had a hammer and were just kind of like, causing destruction, but not taking anything.
Yeah.
Never took anything.
Do they know any motive? Like, was she the target or was she just there and it happened to be?
The husband thinks that she was just there. But I don't know why somebody would go through such extreme to put on this crazy outfit to not take anything.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it's weird to me.
Wow. So you're covering that now. Was that in Texas?
Mm-hmm. Not far from where I live, like 25 minutes from Dallas.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And when was that?
2016.
Wow.
Yeah. It was so somebody knows something.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
Somebody knows
and it's like that was like a long time ago, but not that long ago.
Yeah.
Where
9
it's like,
9 years ago.
9 years. Yeah. Like there's definitely still people.
Wait, 9 years?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Weird one.
That is weird. Now my brain is like,
You can help me solve it.
yeah, I'll come down and we'll go
We
around.
could go interview everybody.
Who has
In
tactical gear?
Midlothian, Texas.
Well, I mean, then that sounds like a small town. That can't be that
It
many
is.
people.
There's not that many people.
We can talk to all of them.
40,000, I think.
Easy.
Yeah.
That's like a week's worth of work. Easy. Yeah, well, that's really interesting. So you're covering that now, and who knows? Maybe you'll solve it.
I'm trying.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is her family like interested in, finding answers? Do they seem to be like vocal, or are they kind of more quiet?
I think they're quiet.
Yeah, just like grieving and trying to move on with their lives.
Yes, because she had 3 daughters that were young, and now they're probably a couple of them are in their maybe late teens, early 20s. One might be still in high school.
So sad.
Yeah.
And in a small town, I feel like it's almost worse because then all the eyeballs are on you. Like you have no like anonymity. It's like
for sure,
you
especially
go to
the husband.
Store, and it's like people are looking at you like, oh,
and that's
those
the
are the
daughter.
kids. Oh, it's just so sad. Well, it's never not sad here, I guess. After the break, Tabitha and I will get into the tragic story of the I can't believe it's yogurt murders in Austin, Texas, and the twists and turns of that terrible case. Welcome back to LA Crimes. I'm here with Tabitha Kane from Housewives of True Crime. Tabitha, let's get into today's story. Let's set the scene. We're in Austin, Texas. What's happening on this really random night?
Yeah, it's December 6th, 1991. And I can actually picture myself there because I had lots of friends that worked at the yogurt shop, right? So there's 2 girls working at the yogurt shop, closing shift. They're 17 years old. And one of them has her little sister there with her I think she was taking her home from the mall, and her best friend. The sister's 15, the best friend's 13, and they're closing shop. What I think happened is 2 guys didn't leave the shop. The next thing we know is the front door is locked, and somebody sees smoke coming from the little yogurt shop. A patrol officer. He calls it in, he goes in, and he finds that it's not just a fire, but it is a murder. What he sees is 3 girls laying in the back of the shop, kind of on top of each other, dead. Later on, he finds the 4th girl about 10 feet away. And they just, it was really a random night
Yeah. It's so sad. What was the landscape like in Austin at the time? Was there a lot of crime?
So it was half the size of it as it is today. So there was still a lot of people, 500,000 people. So it was a city, but I feel like even though that seems pretty big, it still had that small town feel to it. People still were in Future Farmers of America. It still had that very, very much Texas scene to it, much less than it is today. Today, Austin is the music capital of, besides Nashville. There's lots of live music. It's hustle and bustle. There's tons of traffic now. It wasn't like that back then. And I feel like even though there was 500,000 people, you probably still felt like you knew your neighbor.
Yeah. And even the vibe I get from watching the Yogurt Shop Murders doc, like, it does feel very quaint in a way that, like, when you visit Austin now, it does not feel quaint at all.
Right.
But just the way that they're, like, talking about their neighbors and the vibe, and even, like, they're interviewing kids from the high school, and it's like everybody knew everybody, and it just has this, like, quaint sense to it.
Yeah. So the other thing, too, is the 2 girls, the 15-year-old and 13-year-old, I think walked from the mall over to the yogurt shop. So I feel like people were probably riding their bikes all around and very,
it's that
very
era
safe.
when you're not locking your door. Like, that's when, like, no one locked their front door because it was just like, Everything was fine.
I was 11 at the time. And so I feel like when I was 11, I was also, hopping to the yogurt store and in the mall and then riding my bike to my friend's house. And when the streetlights came on, that's when I got home.
Yeah. It's like you knew what your curfew was. Like that was when all of that was a thing.
Yeah.
And you just knew to be home at a certain time and no one was checking on you. You
No.
just showed up back at home.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So when did the families get a call that like something was wrong?
The interesting thing is one of the family members, the sisters, and the younger girl, when the police went to her house, which was later that night, they were just checking on the girls, right? Because they knew that the two girls worked at the yogurt shop. So they were like, well, are they still here? We can't really see because the bodies had been charged so much that they were unrecognizable. So when they went to the house, the mom, she had gotten home late and she just assumed that they were in bed. She had no idea when they said, where is your daughter? She said, they're upstairs sleeping. And they said, well, can you go check? And she did, and they were not there.
Oh, it's brutal. And so that's when they were like, something's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah. What flagged to the police that there was like more than, just a fire going on? Obviously, these bodies are stacked, and
so
then
the
they
bodies
find the other one. And like, at what point are they like, there's foul play here?
So the bodies were naked when they were found. So that was immediate. That was an immediate red flag. They were also tied up with their own clothing. And so when the police were actually, before they transported them to the medical examiner's office, they did all the swabs there for sexual assault, which they would find later that 3 out of the 4 were sexually assaulted that they could tell. We don't know if the 4th one was. I can assume, but
yeah. When later we kind of learned that like that swabbing and that DNA actually plays a huge part in the rest of the story. So like
it really does.
At least they did that because that plays a part.
Thank goodness they did, because it was 1991. DNA was really in its infancy. They weren't able to tell anything except for the fact that it was male DNA at the time. But now, even today, I think that we could probably find out more than what they're even releasing.
For sure. And I mean, just thinking about, databases now are more robust. You might find a match somewhere if this person has been convicted of other crimes or something like that, then it's all in a database somewhere. If they would just check. So what was it like sort of right after the fact? I mean, I'm talking like a few days following, these parents are grieving. Some of the girls had other siblings that weren't inside. What did that look like while they're also sort of on the hunt for people who did this?
Yeah, so the police they were kind of stumped because, first of all, when you have a fire and a crime, it is disastrous, right? You got soot, you have water, you have just evidence just going down the drain, literally. And then you have the family grieving. They don't know what to do. These poor people have just been told the worst nightmares that they could have ever, especially the ones that had, the sisters that had tragically passed. Their family had nobody else. But shortly after, just a few days, there was a break in the case, or a quasi break in the case, you could say. One teenage boy was found at the mall, that North Cross Mall, which was where the girls were hanging out before. He had pulled up his shirt and showed his friend his gun. And I think a security guard or somebody else saw that this was happening and reported it immediately because, it's kind of a douchey thing to do, in my opinion. But also, like, something just happened and now you're walking around the mall with a gun, buddy. That's not super smart.
The timing is weird, but I think about, like, Texas, 1991, like, is it that weird outside of the fact that something just happened for like someone to be walking around with a gun in Texas?
Texas 2025
Yeah,
is the same.
it's the same. So it's like the timing is a little weird, but that has to have been kind of a norm. I don't know.
Like, I don't know either because I am from California like you. And so I don't, like, guns to me are not normal. But since I do live in Texas now, it has become a little bit more normal. But I don't know. I would have thought that it would have been more normal. However, the police took that and kind of ran with it. So they bring in Maurice Pierce, this 16-year-old kid, and he, I wouldn't say is like the brightest toolbox or the brightest crayon in the box. Is that what they say? Or the sharpest tool in the shed. So they bring him in for some questioning, and he starts, they're pretty hard on the questioning with him. And he starts talking, and he starts saying stuff that is pertinent to the case, like he was there.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting, the suspect list and the line of questioning and how it all kind of unfolded. And when we come back, Tabitha and I will get into the investigation of the murders, the long list of suspects, and where the case stands today.
As the air turns crisp and the holidays draw near, comfort becomes the best gift of all. Quince delivers layers that last, sweaters, outerwear, and everyday essentials that feel luxurious, look timeless, and make holiday dressing and gifting effortless. By working directly with ethical, top-tier factories, Quince skips the middleman and offers prices 50% less than similar brands. Now that it's getting slightly colder in California, I've had to sadly trade in my sandals for some closed-toed shoes. And Quince's Italian leather glove ballet flat has really hit everything I need in a shoe. They're comfortable, they look great, and they're super durable. Step into the holiday season with layers made to feel good, look polished, and last from Quince. Perfect for gifting or keeping for yourself. Go to quince.com/LAcrimes for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada, too. That's QUINCE.com/LAcrimes to get free shipping and 365-day returns. quince.com/LAcrimes.
Welcome back to LA Crimes. I'm here with Tabitha Kane from Housewives of True Crime, and we are like in the middle of this very crazy, I can't believe it's yogurt murder case from 1991 in Austin, Texas. So we have Maurice Pierce. He's in the police station. He's giving information about this murder, but it's very weird because he's saying things that align with it. Obviously, there's some like weird coercion in the line of questioning, but he's got a gun. He's near where it happened. But the one thing I find really interesting is the gun is not the same gun, correct? He's carrying a different gun than what they believe was used.
No, it is the same caliber of a gun. It's a .22. Later on, we will find out that that is not the actual gun that was used. It's not the same .22. They couldn't match the bullets to that gun. At the time, they didn't know that.
Okay.
Also, I think if somebody commits a crime and kills people, they usually get rid of that gun.
Right. They're not carrying it around, showing it in a mall. Which, again, I think kind of goes back to, like, this is just a kid in, like, Texas who has a gun who's like, look at my gun. And it's just the timing was...
The timing was wrong.
Wrong timing. I mean, you should never do that, but...
100%, but really not when a murder just occurred a few days before. So this is in 1991 that he is interviewed. He says these crazy things, but they don't actually line up correctly. So they mic him. They put a mic on him, and they have him go talk to one of the buddies that he says was there that actually did it. And that guy's name was Forrest Welborn, I think is who they talked to. Now, Forrest, when he's questioned, basically has no clue what he's talking about, right? He just is like, what? Like, where did this come from? This is like, that didn't happen, dude. And so they kind of they drop it. I think they feel like
They don't have enough.
they don't have enough. His story wasn't exactly like, because he says he was the getaway driver or something.
Right.
And I think the reason that he somehow gets to the point where he says that he was involved in this crime because he wants to get off of this other gun charge.
Right.
Right?
This is common. I mean, this happens a lot where you're in trouble for something and they go, well, if you have information about this or if you have something about this other thing, we can work with you.
Yes.
And then it's like, oh, okay, well,
Yeah, I do.
yeah, of course I have information about this. And then I also think there's this like weird level. I mean, these are kids, right? It's maybe sounds exciting to insert yourself into like this thing that everyone's talking about. And I don't know. I was talking to someone about like, why are there false confessions and why are people saying that they did stuff if they didn't? That means they did it, right? And it's like there's so many reasons for why someone would.
Well, in this case is really where we get into, I think, all false confessions.
Yeah, it is such a. I think it's great that it sparked this conversation, sort of widely spread amongst like other cases and things like that. This is a case that really opens up the door to like, we really need to like analyze these confessions before we just say, well, they said they did it. Great, case closed.
100%.
So we can get into that. I mean, they have these suspects, they let them go. And then it's, 10 years later.
Oh, and he was interrogated by a guy named Hector Polanco. And Hector has been known to get multiple false confessions.
Yeah, there's this training and there's books that, detectives are encouraged to read that help them sort of coerce confessions. And it's like tactics that they can use when they're interviewing. And we see some of the interview footage in the documentary series where you can kind of see them ask a question. The guy maybe answers it incorrectly, like, oh, what did you tie them up with? And he says, oh, electrical wire. Well, that's not what they were tied up with. So they go, well, what did you use their clothes? And then they go,
but that's just feeding them the answer.
I used their clothes. And it's like, they don't even, it takes them like 5 different things that they've said before they say the right thing. And then they go, okay, I need you to be really explicit with me. And then they say it again. I used their clothes to tie them up. And it's like, okay, that's our confession. And it's like, they cut out everything else to then show a jury, well, they said here, I used their clothes to tie them up. And it's like, okay, but that's not exactly how, there's so much more context to that. But they learn those things to do that. And I mean, again, I was talking to my friend who was like, I just don't understand how this is possible. And it's like, okay, it's 2 a.m. They've had you there for 24 hours. Maybe you've had water and like no food. Like you think that they're going to get you regardless. So if your best chance to like get out of this is just to say, yeah, sure, whatever, you're right.
That's what happens.
That's what you're going to do.
That's what happens.
And yeah, so they let them go. But they have his statement that they've, recorded, obviously, and they've transcribed what he says the first time, which becomes really important later.
Yes. 7.5 years later.
They come back and they arrest these guys again. They bring in 2 new people that were also there.
So they have a new investigator on the case. So that's where it got back opened up, and he has, tunnel vision.
Yeah. He's determined to get these guys, which I think also kind of goes back to there is a pressure on the police to solve crime and to get the guy and make an arrest. And that goes all the way through to the prosecutors. Everyone has this pressure to like solve a case. So this guy comes in and he's like, I'm going to solve this case. And he's like, well, we had these guys and they said they did it.
That's right.
Let's go back and talk to them. But then he does. But he doesn't read their prior statements. So he gets another confession from them, not realizing they don't actually match, right? See,
right.
What Maurice says the second time isn't the same as what he said the first time.
That's right.
But he doesn't ever go, let's look at A and let's look at B.
It doesn't matter as long as he says what the evidence shows.
Right.
Right? I mean, because we don't have to show the jury the first one if we show the jury the second one.
Right. And then they go and they go to West Virginia, which my ears perked up to get Michael Scott.
Yes.
Who's in West Virginia.
And by the way, okay, so all these guys now, it's 7.5 years later. They were teenagers when this happened. Now they're in their mid-20s.
Some are married.
And they're married and they have children.
Yeah. And not that you can be a murderer and still end up sort of a contributing citizen. None of these guys had like that much run-in with crime.
No.
They were like
one had a DUI or something. Yeah.
Like regular dudes, like just living their lives.
Yes.
And yeah, Michael Scott gets called into the police in West Virginia to talk about this. And it's so sad. You can hear him. They have the video footage of him calling his wife at the time going, hey, I think I'm going to be here a little bit longer. I think I'm remembering stuff I didn't remember before. And it's because of this.
It's psychological.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's putting memories that are not actually there in your head
and
after
convincing
20
them that
hours.
like at one point, Michael's like, I really believed at one point that I did it. And like they had me believing that I was there and that I did this. I mean, it's really interesting.
Well, they lied to them, right? Because he's like, I was at the Rocky Horror Picture Show or something, right? And they were like, that wasn't even playing. So then he's like, well, what the hell?
He's like maybe I wasn't there.
Swore I was there.
Yeah. And he's like, I did that every weekend. And they're like, well, it wasn't playing that weekend.
Yeah.
And he goes, okay. So was it possible you weren't there? He's like, well, I guess if it wasn't playing, it's possible I wasn't there.
Yeah. He's like, well, I must not have been there if it wasn't playing.
Yeah.
So, and these guys, I think you also have to think they were the kids that were hanging out at the bottom of the riverbank, smoking pot, doing God knows what else they were doing, right? Drinking a lot. So their memory is fuzzy anyways on what they were doing every weekend day because they were just kind of partiers. And so I think that's also one reason that they were able to, lie to them and say, you really weren't at the Rocky Horror Picture Show and you really weren't there. And I think you were here. And then they're like, well.
And then they go, okay, I guess
I was there. And
yeah.
I guess I did that. And to the point where they're so exhausted, especially Michael, that he's like, fine. When they ask him about raping the girls, he says, no, for so long. And then he just kind of blurts it out. I did it. But
yeah, and then it's just so crazy. So they take them to trial based on these confessions. There's no other evidence.
So 2 of them didn't go to trial because they never actually confessed. And then 2 do. And
they are trying them for capital murder, which is a big deal
as adults.
That is that comes with the death penalty.
It does.
And it's very interesting because they only are charging 2 of them out of the 4, and Forrest gets off, right?
Yes, because he never admits to being there.
He goes home, and Michael Scott is the first. He goes to trial first, right?
Right.
And he gets convicted and sentenced to death. And he's in prison for 7.5 years, I believe, or up almost 10. I can't remember the exact length of time he's in prison, but he's in prison for a really long time. And
Robert Springsteen,
yes,
he also confessed, and he got, I think, life in prison.
I think he got life in prison also. And then Maurice, who was sort of the one who tied this all together. I mean, without him and the gun and all of this, there really wouldn't be these other guys involved. He also doesn't get charged with anything.
No, because he doesn't confess again.
And
that first confession doesn't really look like...
There's nothing the same. Like,
right.
They can't line it up.
So he gets off.
And this case is so interesting because we have the Fifth Amendment, which I think a lot of people who are in true crime are really familiar with. Mm-hmm. But we also have the Sixth Amendment, which means you have the right to look your accuser in the eye and be like, why did you do this? But if your accuser is pleading the Fifth because you're co-conspirators, which one
overrides the other.
Overrides the other. And so what they did in this case, which I think is so interesting and really tweaks their confessions, is they redact anything that incriminates the other person. So they're taking out parts of Robert's statement that say, Michael did this, and then I did this, and Michael did this. They take out all the Michael parts, and then they do the same on the other side. So it just looks like I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this. And it's like, that is not a full picture for a jury to see. And it's just so interesting, the way that this all sort of plays out. But then, of course, down the line, everything gets overturned.
Yeah.
And they get released because there's DNA from this sexual assault test that they run.
Yeah.
That doesn't match any of the four people.
In early 2000s, right? Like 2006.
Yeah.
Is that when? It doesn't match any of the four people. So instead of the police saying, okay, you guys, we actually got it wrong, and these are not the guys, and thank goodness we have this technology now that we can
find out who
it is. They say there must have been a fifth.
Right.
Like, no one's ever said anything about a fifth guy.
Yeah.
It has never been talked about. But because we have this like DNA that doesn't match, there's got to be another person involved. And
this happens a lot, I think, in cases. I mean, we're seeing this with the Karen Reed trial, right? Instead of just saying, oh, we should be looking for someone else, let's go back to the drawing board, we got it wrong. They are so adamant that they were right that it almost like derails justice for the families and everyone involved, because they just want to say, no, we got it right at the beginning, it was them.
And it's also sad. I think I can see how that happens because the families get they also get tunnel vision because they're so happy that they finally are going to have some justice for.
And these are the people they're supposed to trust. Like, these are from the beginning, you know, when something bad happens, you call 911. So from the beginning, these are the people you go, they're on my side and I trust them. And I think there isn't a lot of leeway for like, well, and it doesn't need to be malicious, right? Like, maybe they're just wrong, and maybe we need to just try again.
And I think I don't know how I'm not in these investigators' heads, but I think a lot of times that is true. They're still on the family's side, even if they're going down the wrong path.
Yeah.
You know, they just have kind of decided that is where it's going to lie, and they're going to do everything they can to win. That's why I also hate when prosecutors are like, "We won," and I'm like, but did you win? Like, I don't think it's a win and lose situation. Yeah. I think that it is, we have justice and we made, you know, we got the right person, but it's not a win and lose. It's like, did you get the right person? Yeah,
totally. I mean, these families are still grieving. I mean, even there's this really powerful moment in the doc series where the mother of the sisters is crying, and she's like, watching this man be sentenced to death was actually really heartbreaking because now he's going to die too. And it was just like this moment of like, even if, you know, she felt a sense of relief because she's like, okay, we know who did this, but like, does he really need to die? And it was just like this really like human moment of this whole thing where it's like, does that even really feel like justice to people anymore? That like the punishment is the same as the crime.
Yeah, I think that's where the death penalty gets hard, right?
Yeah.
Because maybe it's not. Yeah. Maybe that isn't justice.
Yeah, it was really, really sad. And then, you know, you think about the wrongful convictions. And what if it took a really long time before they went, oh, we don't have the right DNA and it's too late?
Well, that happens.
Yeah. It's really sad.
That does happen.
Yeah.
So thankfully, these guys did get released out of prison, but they did not get exonerated.
Right.
Meaning that they can be rearrested at any time and tried again. And then, you know, Maurice, the tragedy behind him.
Yes. So just to sort of get us up to speed. So Michael Scott was sentenced to death. Robert Springsteen was sentenced to life in prison. They got out.
2006.
In 2006. And they're, Michael Scott moves back to West Virginia because he was afraid, you're at risk of being rearrested really at any time. I mean, even today they could get rearrested. So he's like, I'm going back to West Virginia because Austin PD is like, they know who we are. So if we got pulled over for speeding or we got pulled over for anything else, there's a chance that like we could end up behind bars because they're just trying to get us.
Or just, prejudiced against them.
For something.
In general, yeah.
And I think there was a paranoia for all of them. Because also, this all happened to them initially when Maurice was 16 is the first time he's interrogated for all of this. And then, what happens to him? Because he stays in Austin.
That PTSD has to be real.
Yeah.
For that. Because those years are so pivotal in your life. You don't forget those years ever. So anyways, he gets pulled over for a traffic violation, and I think he had a lapse of kind of judgment because he starts running from the police instead of just, giving him his license, registration, step out, whatever they wanted him to do. He calls his daughter and tells her that they're after him again. And I think he probably lived in that fear.
Yeah.
And he ended up dying.
Yeah.
In this traffic stop.
Yeah, it's really sad. I mean, someone said, like, imagine if he hadn't carried that gun around the mall that one day, like none of this would have ever happened. And
one stupid mistake
Yeah.
really can cost you.
And live with you for the rest of your life. What were the names of the 4 suspects?
Okay, so there was Maurice Pierce, Michael Scott, Robert Springsteen, and Forrest Welburn.
Yeah. And they were all friends with each other.
They were all buddies that kind of just hung out down in the riverbank. That's where they met on the Friday night it never really says to smoke pot. I'm just going to alleged that I kind of think that's what they're doing.
Yeah, just doing what
they're just doing teenager stuff.
Yeah.
It's
a Friday night. It's December in Texas, so it's probably not like freezing, and they're just hanging out outside.
It might be freezing.
It's not snowing.
It's not snowing. It's not snowing. It actually could, in December in Texas, it could be 75 or it could be 35.
They're just hanging out.
Yeah.
So it's been over 30 years since this happened. And where do we think this case stands now? I mean, I know that there's like a detective who's assigned to this case, but...
Okay, so let's get into what I said in the beginning. So there were 2 people in the yogurt shop that were sitting at a booth, and they know that booth was never cleaned up because all the chairs at the end of the night are put on top of the tables. You know how they do that so they can clean the floors. Well, this particular chair was not lifted. So what a few people from the yogurt shop that were there that night have come forward and said that they have seen they saw these 2 guys. They thought they were odd characters. One of them was wearing a green army style jacket, and multiple people in different kind of settings, right? There was a husband and wife that came in. They said that these guys looked off. They weren't eating ice cream. They were sitting in the booth by themselves, whispering, and they had some sort of bag in the middle of the table. So I think that we need to figure out who those 2 guys were. Also, they were really the only 2 people that never came forward to say that they were there.
Right.
They found everybody that had made a credit card transaction, and then they searched the public to say, if you were in the yogurt shop that day, please come forward. Well, these mystery men never have come forward. And so what they think is that they locked the doors, 10 minutes before they were closing or whatnot, but left maybe those guys in there so that they could finish up doing whatever they were doing, and probably said, hey, you guys need to leave, and we're closing up. Yeah. We know that they never did leave. Well, we don't know that they never did leave, but we know that the front door never was unlocked. So presumably whoever did this left through the back door. That door was unlocked. They also set the fire with just paper products that were in the back storage room. But I think that's where we need to go. We need to go with these two guys that were sitting in this booth, and it's so long to make a composite sketch. There was another guy in a car that a gentleman came forward and said he looked a little weird. He was sitting in his car by himself outside. They did make a composite sketch on that guy, and that guy actually ended up looking like another composite sketch of a sexual predator. So there's that angle too. But I think it's definitely, I think we need to know who were those two guys.
Yeah.
30 years later, they should have got composite sketches then.
Right. And that's the problem with these cases that go cold for so long. It's like information does sort of get muddled through memory, and also, witnesses pass away and things happen, and you just lose access to so much stuff that you really, those first few moments and days and weeks are such crucial time periods in cases like this to gather as much information as possible. But unfortunately, what happens is when they get so laser focused on it's got to be these people, you sort of neglect the rest of the information, and eventually sometimes that information becomes really important and it's not there anymore and you don't have it. So yeah, it's tough to be in that position. I can't imagine in an official capacity. We get to unofficially look into these things. But it's a really important job, and with DNA now, they hopefully are able to find a match for this DNA that they have. And they're finding
I think
more matches of DNA to that sample that they had on multiple pieces of evidence from the scene. Mm-hmm. So that's also proving that, a lot of people said, oh, this fifth person, it could have been contamination. It could have been something, a friend of theirs that they all knew or saw recently, and that could have contaminated this DNA. But they're finding now that sample matches several different items from the scene. So whoever that DNA belongs to is definitely the person who did this.
This is true. Why can't we do something like Brian Koberger? Find it through familial DNA.
Yeah.
Like do some real digging.
Build the family tree.
Mm-hmm.
Who's missing? That's probably going to be what it takes. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how this all transpires. Well, Tabitha, thanks for being here today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And hopefully, if you're listening and you want to go down the Reddit threads and try to figure it out, I feel like these families, the parents are getting older now. It's like I'm sure all they want before anything happens to them is to know like who really did this.
Yes, and Eliza's sister was on that documentary.
Yeah.
She would really like to know. And she feels the sense
and her mother has passed.
I know.
Yeah.
So it would be good. There is a way that we can do this.
For sure.
For sure. I feel it.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being
Thanks
here.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome back to LA Crimes. This is a post-mortem update. We have an update on the yogurt shop murders case, a fantastic update. And we got Tabitha back virtually. We're all virtual. For the update. So Tabitha, what's going on?
It is actually kind of crazy, Madison, because we had recorded this episode and literally, I think maybe 5-7 days later, we had a break in the case, and essentially the yogurt shop murders have been solved. The case has not been closed yet because the suspect is no longer living, but they did find through DNA technology and kind of doing, I was trying to research exactly how they found this particular person because it happens to be a serial killer. And he has since died a while ago, a long time ago. And so I was like, why didn't this happen before? But I think because of the amount of DNA that they had left of from the victims, it just took a really, really advanced technology, some manual looking into it, that we have a suspect. And really, they also tied the ballistics back to this guy, and his name is Robert Bashir. And
Yeah, it's a great day for the still living suspects from
oh yeah,
before. Um, Great for them, but obviously, yeah, it's this weird feeling of you don't really feel like you get as a family member like your day in court, your justice, whatever, because this person's already dead. But I think the relief after so long has to feel just incredible for these families. To have sort of an end to this nightmare.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I saw in a press conference one of the mothers did speak, and I mean, she's elated, like she's this, and I think I might have said his last name wrong. Sorry, it's Brashers. But uh of course, like obviously, like it doesn't bring her daughter back, but it does give some closure to, okay, we know who it is. We know the person's not still out there um harming other people, and we can kind of put this all to rest.
Yeah, for sure. I also think it's such an interesting um note to all investigators, true crime fans, everyone. This was a serial killer. And when this stuff like this happens, there's all these theories and obviously there were falsely accused
Yeah.
suspects. And I think it's so easy to run with wild tales and wild stories and the fanfare of it all to kind of create a movie in our heads of what potentially happened. And it was these guys and they looped in their buddies and then this happened. And at the end of the day, like it was a random serial killer. And I think that it's just such a warning tale to everyone to not kind of run with
Your
stories
gut suspicion at
until
first. Yeah. I,
yeah.
I agree. And what's weird with this one is he used two guns, right? So this is where immediately the investigators like there's two people involved, and usually when there's two guns involved, there are two people involved. But in this case, there wasn't. But this guy had a knack of harming women, especially young women, since 1985. I think in 1985, the first known time is when he tried to kill a 24-year-old girl that he took on a date, but she survived, thankfully. And he spent time in prison, not long enough, 3.5 years. Um,
Yeah.
and then he went on to harm other people. So,
It's so crazy. And it's sad to hear stories like this where the perpetrator was in prison for something else, released. Obviously, you can't know, that they're going to do something again or, they served quote unquote the time for that specific crime. But, there's got to be something looked into about like our rehabilitation system that going to prison is not enough if it doesn't come with any sort of like rehabilitation. These people get out and they become serial killers and
yeah, I
it's
agree.
really sad. And then, looking at the system as well of this DNA, they had DNA that they could have tested, and obviously they needed really advanced technology to do so. But this man's DNA was in the system
I know, for a long time.
for a long time. And
Yeah.
it's frustrating to hear that and go, well, how did they not match this sooner? This is someone, it's not like a first time offender. You have no idea where he is or who he's connected to. And then you have to do the genealogy where you connect him to someone, a sibling, an aunt, an uncle. They had his fingerprints on file this entire time.
I know. I think it was something, I was trying to look further into this, and I think it was something with the amount of DNA that because they have only the fingernail DNA, like they had his DNA under the fingernail. So the amount that they had was only like 25 characters or something. And so they needed to match it. And sometimes you have like thousands or even millions, right? And so it's so small of a piece of DNA that they had that I think that's really where it got tricky.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, gosh. I mean, with great news, obviously,
Yes.
for the family. And I'm sure the police department is counting that as a win for them as well.
100%.
But really for the families to feel like they don't have to continue to wonder or resent these other people. And and great for those guys too.
Total win for them.
Yeah, for sure. Wow.
Yeah, so that's the update.
Great
And it's a
update.
good
I
one.
love when it's a happy update, and this is definitely that for this. So that's amazing.
I agree. Thanks for bringing me back to talk about it.
Of course. We couldn't give the update without you. Thanks for being here. And hopefully what is normally a very dark topic, this episode ends on a lighter note.
Higher note, yes.